ask the regulators this. You know, you've heard a statement I made a little earlier that we are hearing from the banks that their job is being complicated by examiners. And I know you're folding your arms, Mr. Gruenberg. But we hear this every day, and as ranking member, members refer bankers to me, or small businessmen, and they actually...
Yeah, it's one of the most fun parts of the job.
Right. And, you know, I had 3 yesterday, one from Mr. Micah's office, one from an Iowa congressman, and they mentioned various things, like, for instance, one banker, I've heard this twice in the last week, said that the examiner said you have too many owner-occupied loans. Another one, you know, you've got too much commercial real estate, different things of that nature. But, you know, if they've got it, they've got it. The other thing that I have noticed is that, you know, you actually say they're not healthy, so you restrict their lending. But I'm just wondering if they're not healthy, and I guess by not healthy, I don't know what camel rating you're assigning them, you know, but what that would mean, whether that's a 4 or 5. But, you know, there are areas of the country where there are tremendous amount of banks. I would say in Florida, there's not that many 1 or 2 rated banks, are there? But my question, I guess, is y'all are now saying, and a lot of the things you said today would be very helpful, where you said we ask that they're not, you know, if the real estate, if the appraisal is dropped on the property, or that we won't call that loan or whatever. But how are you communicating that to the examiners? I mean, to show some leniency, because I think it is very, very, very important.
Well, I'll start, Mr. Bachus. I mean, we get on nationwide conference calls on a frequent basis with our examiners to go over very significant nuts and bolts issues about exactly the kinds of questions that you're getting, because just as you get all these questions, I get them too, and I do my own set of banker outreaches to banks of all sizes and get a number of these questions. And so we try to structure the calls to reflect the kinds of questions we're getting, to give the advice, to communicate the message of balance as best we can. And as I said before, it's not something new that we've been doing. We've really been concerned about the buildup of commercial real estate in the risk that would happen if we started to have a real estate recession like we're having now. So we've started down a path to try to get banks to be aware from several years ago that they were going to need to do more things to get ready for what was coming. And as the problems have hit, and then as we get issues, we have a very quick system for getting it back up the chain, collecting information about what are problems, and then having a call to talk about the issues that are there. And I don't know any other way than the hard blocking and tackling of just keeping at it, hearing the things, going back to them and trying to get...
But I'm talking about with your own examiners.
Correct. This is with our own examiners.
With your own examiners.
With our own examiners.
Are you getting feedback from some of the banks? Are they able to call you and say, look, you know, I'm not talking about this examiner. I don't want you to tell him we were...
I welcome it, and as I said, I mean, I just went to a meeting with 20 bankers in Denver a few weeks ago from our Western District, where we asked for we had a very good, candid discussion with them about some of the problems, and it was a mixture, frankly, of stronger and less strong banks, and we had a quite robust discussion, and I always get things out of those meetings that I try to bring back to the supervisors and incorporate into what we tell our examiners.
And let me ask one other thing. The Small Business Lending Fund, Mr. Allison, will that, again, there are regions of the country where many of the banks are 4s and 5s. And, you know, those are probably the regions where the small businesses are hurting the worst. I would imagine there's probably some correlation there. What banks will be eligible for these funds?
Congressman Bachus, all the banks are eligible to apply. they have to apply through their regulator. And the regulator makes a determination as to whether that bank is viable and can be then referred to Treasury for funding.
Yeah. You know, I just, you know, with some of the largest institutions, we injected money into them or loaned them money because they were failing. You know, some of the smaller institutions, they didn't get money because they were in problems. And I think there is a feeling out there that there was a double standard. And I wish y'all would look very carefully at if you're going to do that. You know, some of the banks that need the most help are those that are not healthy.
Ms. Clark.